Dreams team stream.
I thought you said cheese.
Extreme
cheese dream.
We just need Kareem on here, so it'd be the Cream Dreams team stream. This is our July stream. This is our Gothic Novels stream. We are doing this in support of our friends over at the Guildford Library. They've been doing a month-long Gothic novel themed jam, where everyone's been writing books, creating games, all sorts.
Sounds like tasty jam.
This is our input,
nice.
And these guys are going to be making
some Gothic
stuff-esque
things. Yeah,
we've made a few bits that you'll see, but most of it's we're gonna sort of develop it as we go.
Like in the last couple of hours, I was like, right, let's go. And
John was in full John mode as we were going. So without further ado, shall we begin? We've got you guys. You guys are right here. So if you want to make any suggestions, we've got a few of your suggestions already that will be incorporated, and I think we're ready to go.
Yeah, and just before we go, I do want to just point out this.
Oh, yes.
Check this out from the official PlayStation magazine, that we've got a little Dreams decal that you can put on the light bar, which is pretty
so
awesome.
Nice, isn't it? And it's going to be available in the next issue of OPM, which goes on sale next month sometime, I think.
Yeah.
So, right, John.
Wicked.
You going to start?
Over to me, yeah. So, the first thing I'm going to do is create a little bit of an area that these guys can start adding things into. We're going to do a bit of controller swapping back and forth and see what we come up with. So let's start fresh with a game. And the first thing I want to do is just make sure I build it at the right scale, because Kev has made some awesome characters that we're going to see later.
Thanks for remembering.
No problem. So the first thing I'm going to do, so I can check and confirm the scale, I'm going to go into my handy gadgets and stuff up here, and I'm going to go to a blank puppet, and I'm just going to stick a blank puppet out just for a second. And this is what you can customize later to make your own characters and stuff, but for me it's really good because I can go, that's the height of like a standard person, you know, like.
So your doorways are the big
doorway, exactly. Gotcha. So I can make things based on this character size. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is head up to our search. You guys have seen this before, and this is a load of things that Tom had mentioned earlier that we've created, and I've got a whole bunch of cool things here.
So we have a weekly jam. Oh, this has been like a fortnight, hasn't it, within the studio, and we have a theme, and this theme was Gothic Novel. So this is a bunch of stuff that people have made from the studio that we've put together for this stream.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, have you got the move controllers around, anyone?
And I believe, yes.
I'm going to grab some move controllers to do this, because I can go super speedy with move controllers, so it gives these guys more time to put their things in.
Ta-da!
Ta-da, move controllers, and you can just swap seamlessly like that if you do have some move controllers.
Such a good salesman, John.
I know, I do try. So I've got this little cube that I built earlier, and what I've done is I've put a sort of different pattern on each side, and I'm going to use that to start fleshing out my scenery. Now, since it's a cube, I'm going to put grid mode on, which means that I can move it on the grid and sort of lock them together, which is really cool. So the first thing I want to do is build a bit of a floor. So we've already got this sort of temporary floor down here, which I'm just going to use as a guide so we know how, what's level and stuff. And I can tweak this, because this is just one single sculpt, and I can tweak some of the properties of it. And what I want to do is just make it a tiny bit shinier, because then it's going to catch the light like that, look, and all the little details, which is great. And I can copy it, and I can sort of rotate it around and put them into different positions. And if I make sure that I grab it from the middle, it will rotate, because it rotates around the point you grab, you see, which means I can then make sure it ends up nice and lined like that. And the reason I'm rotating it is just to sort of reduce the tiliness of it. Does that make sense? You know, so it's not so like
it feels more.
And presumably that's why you did something different on each side of that cube, so that you've got some more.
So I can just like grab it and get this side, for example, you know, and we can put that there, and it kind of starts looking like we've got like a different floor textures going on, you know, which is really nice. And you can even do the sort of, you guys have seen this before, I think, the sort of cloning like that. And we can delete those if we want to, but what I'm going to do is very quickly just go get these and just make the floor bigger really fast. And this is going to be the start of our Gothic jam. So I'm thinking of building basically like a sort of cathedral church kind of thing, because I think that's quite Gothic-y, right? That's really nice. I can turn grid off now if I want to. And what's really great is, you know, you can just come in and like move a couple of things like this, you know, just to give it that sort of natural look. like a bit ruined. There we go. Great.
Nice.
And it's like these subtle little things that you do that really sort of makes your level sort of, you know, come to life, I think, which is really great. Okay, so now I need to build some walls and some interesting things of it. So I'm going to put grid mode back on. And I'm going to look at one of the other sides here. Let's see what we've got. We've got like tiles. There we go. We've got like this wall section here,
bricks,
like bricks, yeah. And what's cool is I could even grab it and we could scale it up so it's like twice as big or 4 times the size, you know. So we've got some really big stones here. We can just copy that out across there like that to the end. And we can copy it up into the air. Need to go in a little bit closer to make sure that grid lines up nicely. There we go.
Nice.
And I can copy that whole wall and we can put that on the other side as well. And I'm not sure where we're going to go with this yet, guys. Like, we're going to make it up as we go. Like, we haven't built this exact set before, so we're going to find out what's going to happen.
Why break the habit of a lifetime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know. And then I think if I get one down this end, this would be like, seal this off. And the reason I'm going to do this is if I chop out these middle ones, one of the things I built earlier is this Gothic window, which is quite cool. And we could use that as a window, as it looks now, which we will be doing later. But what I want to show you real quickly is how you can reuse things. So I'm going to use this to make a door. So I'm going to go into the sculpt, and I'm going to start changing the sculpt that I did. And in this case, I'm just going to delete the sort of details I made here for the arch.
I do this a lot when I'm making stuff. Like, once you've got one asset, you can just be like, right, I'm going to just take that and I'm just going to change it slightly, remove some bits.
Totally.
And suddenly you've got a completely different asset.
It's ridiculous.
Like,
it's really great
amazing.
for that. And here, in fact, there's this one here, but you can see it like intersects with the arch. And I realised that was going to happen earlier, so I'd made another one, which was actually just essentially what I did. This is exact same as one of these blocks over here, apart from I just scooped out a arch shape out of the top of it. So I'm just going to scale it up. So
So
it's the
same as before,
size.
that was one of these blocks.
Yeah,
You
that was
just
exactly one of those
added a new
blocks.
cut
In
to it.
fact, I
Cool.
can't see,
That's
but
right.
if you look, you'll see. There you go.
Yeah,
there's
there you
the
go.
tile
Yeah.
section of it. So, and then that will just slot in there nicely. Like
Oh,
that.
it's super cool building these packs of things, because you might like want to give those away as prizes to people, or like share them with your sort of co-creators and have like like your own little set, which can then be expanded into loads and loads of different levels.
Exactly. So now we have like a sort of bit of a door, and you guys have seen the sort of reciprocating cloning. And if you've
Oh.
been and seen some like Gothic cathedrals, you can kind of do that kind of vibe, you know, which is quite exciting. And depending on how coarse you have the grid or how coarse you want these, you know, you can start making cool looking stuff like that. And in fact, I'm going to use this exact same technique to make the sort of roof segments at the top here.
Nice.
There we go.
I think Daenerys would be very happy here. It's very Dragonstone, doesn't it?
Yeah, very.
Super Dragonstone. There you go. And we can just clone a few more in between there
Cool.
like that, and make sure I've lined up nicely on the grid. I'm happy with that. And so from our sort of player's point of view, you know, we're starting to get this like church cathedral-esque kind of vibe going on. Let's build this wall up behind here a bit higher. So I'm just going to copy these pieces. This.
You work so fast, John.
Thanks.
Hmm.
Shove those up into the air.
Donk, donk.
And I need to fill in this side. But what I want to do is, if I filled it in here, it'd sort of be weird. It would go up into it. So I'm just going to, again, use this arch, and I'm just going to make an even bigger one that would be sort of outside of the wall, you know, and bring it down, and then just fill in up, like, a whole bunch of them like this, you know.
All right, I see.
Ah.
So that from the
Ceiling.
inside, you know, we've made, like, ourselves a vaulted ceiling. And we could even, you know, if we think these don't go up high enough into it, we can go up into it. But that's, like,
Yep.
sort of details.
Finesse. Yeah.
Finessing. Let's extend this floor out a bit further as well. Let's copy a load of these pieces like this. What's cool actually is you've seen me like copy things and paste them a few times, but you can actually group stuff together. Like, so if I've got a section of floor which I'm happy with, like I am here, let's get that last one, I can just say group, and so now this is just one big old piece, which is good. So I don't have to keep every time selecting all of them like that to clone out a bit of floor. I can get rid of the character now, we don't need that. Okay, let's see what else I've got in our little collection here. I've got this Gothic pillar. That's pretty cool. So let's
Did
get
you
that.
make this one as well?
I made this. I actually made this like a couple of weeks ago. It took me about 20 minutes during lunchtime. I just thought, I wonder if I could make something like like super realistic in Dreams, like textured, you know, that we haven't done much before. So
we showed that if you saw the advertisement for the stream.
Yeah,
that is your cathedral,
that's and all that was quite literally this copy and pasted in a row. Like that's quite literally all it was. And I just want to grab it and flip it around up on top of itself. If I can do that. Let's see. Now, interesting thing about this object is I actually built it on the grid, but if you look at the sort of grid angle there, you can see I actually built it at 45 degrees because this is really actually supposed to be like that, so to speak. But for this, I want it sideways, you know, so that's why I've got to go in here and zoom to sort of realign the grid back up. And again, once I'm happy,
I thought you were going to say, well, we can't have it on the grid, but you fixed it. So
exactly, Because
once you group it there, it gets reassigned a new grid, non-45 degree.
Exactly, that's right. And the cool thing is, like, as the reason I can't remember what I was going to say now. I was getting so excited, I've completely forgotten.
Grids,
Grids, yeah. I do quite like building things on the grid, which is just as well.
None of the artists use grids. It's only the designers. It's funny.
Well, I don't know. It's not. Yeah, for the most part, like designers really like grids.
Was that a burn?
No, it wasn't meant as a burn. It's just a funny thing when you work with them. It's like, the artist's like, well, I never use grid.
Yeah. I've just realised that I've been making these get slightly lower each time, which it upsets me. I can't live with myself. Let's do that properly, John. Come on. There we go. That's more like it. And we have it coming out to the front there. There we go. And then we'll just copy it across this way. And you can see actually when I move things on the grid here in the middle, there's this little white line that shows you the sort of grid points you've moved it on, so you can make sure that you get it exactly right each time you do this. And I think in this particular case, what I want is it to be there like that. There we go.
See the amount of extra time you spent painting this one. Like the rest of it looks amazing just out of the box with the splashy engine, but you can see where you've put in the moss and the
paint. It's
shading.
Really fun to paint. Actually, it's one of my favourite things to do. And this block here, I'm just going to turn around because I know on one of the sides there's like an interesting bit of detailing which I think will just look cool there, you know, like it's cool for doing things like that. Okay, I'm going to turn the grid off for a second and I'm going to put some flaming torches in to sort of help start lighting the scene.
Of course.
So if I get time running, we can see what it looks like, and I've got this cool flaming torch, you know, which I've got to put a bit of logic on here to like shorten the flames and stuff as I move it around, and Ed's pre-put some sounds on here, which is really cool. So
when we get to the characters, I reused it because it had that logic already built in, so it nicely behaves in the character's hand.
This is looking properly Gothic now.
Those animated strokes are so cool. There's so many different things you can do with them.
They're so fun. In fact, we're going to do quite a bit of stroke stuff later because it's really good for doing all kinds of things. And we'll put one on either side of the door like that. And talking of doors, I think we should put a door on here, which would be really nice. Okay, so once again, I'm going to go back into the collection, and there's a door that I built earlier. And I want to put that onto the grid, so let's get the grid out. And we can twist it around a couple of times, and this like tells the grid that you want it on the grid, you know.
Yeah.
Because you can move things that are like off the grid in a grid-like way, or you can force things to be like definitely on the grid, you know, depending on what it is you're trying to achieve. So let's stick that in.
I saw you making this as we were putting our microphones on, literally like 10 minutes before the stream started. So I know it's all like some pre-made assets here to save time, but like that was how long did that take? You?
10 minutes. Like
we were watching you make the cube, and like me and Angela was like, you've been doing it for 5 minutes. And it's already got the texture.
Yeah, some speedy building. And look, it's catching the light on there, which is quite nice. So I'm going to. We may have shown this before, but I'm just going to joint this, which is really cool, and show you that we've got cool joints, and we've got all different types of joints. But in this, I just want like a bolt joint to make a hinge. So I'm just going to get it from here, and I'm just going to move it across and stamp it there, and I've got a joint. Now, what's interesting about this joint is you can see if I look closely at it, it's like a bolt that's this way, so the door would open like that, which you don't want the door to open that way. So let's put the grid back on, and I'm just going to grab this bolt, and I'm just going to put it upright like this, and I'm going to put it where that hinges. I can even scale it up to make sure it's lined up like that. And you won't see this in the game when you're in play mode. This is just purely like to help you set this up. And so now I've got a door that opens on those hinges, which is really cool.
Nice.
And I can do the same on the other side. So let's get the grid back on. Let's get a bolt out. Go to this side.
How do you stop it from completely spinning around and forever, like in 360 degrees? Is there a way of...
That is a good question, Ed, yes. So all the bolts and joints, they have various options, and one of them is like limits. You can set the limits you want. And I've just realised that I've done that quite funny, so I'm just going to turn grid off and line that up by eye. There we go. Make the door a little bit wonky, which is quite cool. That's kind of what I want. Yeah, so if I tweak it, we have a load of options, and one of them is use limits, and then we get this limit range, and you can see as I move my door around, it hits there and won't go any further, and as I hit here, it won't go any further. And so we can tune that limit range to say, well, the door's already shut, so what I want is the door to be like is in that position already. Gone just past the limit a little bit, and so now when I open it up, it goes from there to there, which is really nice.
That's cool.
But in this case, we're probably going to animate it,
Sure.
so I'm not worried about the limits being on there or not at the moment. There you go, we've got a door.
Nice, that's looking great.
What else do we need in here? Anything? There's a few little candles over here because it's going to be like a goth. This is like set dressing, and you can spend as long or as little as you want doing this kind of stuff. This is like finessing, like really sort of nerding out.
They actually give off light, those.
Yeah, you can make them give off light if you want to. I'm not sure. Maybe you'd have to scale those up quite big to give off that much light. And then we want maybe some spider webs. There's a spider web a bit earlier, and it's using our stroke, and it's got some physics on it. And it actually blows around in the wind. So when I leave it,
making me shiver.
You can see it's just like moving itself a tiny little bit, only ever so slightly. I didn't want it to be too much, So let's just put a few cobwebs up over here. Let's put like a giant one to imagine as like some kind of like giant.
Maybe put some in the opposite
lower
level, so it looks like a spider's made its home.
Yeah. People did want to see spiders, and now you've got proof that spiders exist in this game, Jeff.
Oh, great.
Everyone loves spiders. And get one down here as well, down
That's
that
it,
ground level.
Nice.
There we go. And put one sort of crisscrossing the other way, like that kind of.
That's great.
And so it's cool. I've got
Not
some.
a fan of spiders.
I've got some spider webs. Anything else we need before I hand it over to you guys? Let's get like.
Skull.
This one interesting. This one has some light in. So
was that Dan by any chance?
Dan Goddard has made this, and he loves skulls. Skulls are his jam.
When we gave the challenge of Gothic Novel, he just lost his mind. Email just going skull.
So
yes, Dan, you can make some skulls.
So he put some lights in there. So you can do something like that, which is quite funny, but you don't have to.
A couple on the floor.
A couple on the floor like this, They're quite big skulls, I imagine. Like if do you remember the person who was stood here was about that big? So that skull is like.
Where has he found himself?
Absolutely giant. But it's super gothic, which is great. And then we've got like a raven skull, which it looks like we've got a light on there as well. So I'm just going to delete the light. So
you've got a metal version as well.
I can even just drag it out of the little shiny metal, which is quite cool.
Metal
I think we should put that on the opposite side to complement the human skull that's over there. So it's like there's some kind of like god hierarchy or something I don't know going on here, and it's
definitely cultish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super cultish. And there we go. So that's the start of the scene, and we're going to improve it later. But I think this is a good point to actually hand over to Kev, who's made some characters, and he's going to talk us through how he did those.
Get the DS4.
Of course you can. Yeah.
So one of the things a lot of people have asked about is about like custom characters, because obviously they've seen the characters we've made and what they want to make. So I think yours is a good example of making your own character.
Yeah. And
nice.
Time is running, just so you know as well, Kev.
Time is running.
If that makes any difference to you.
It's always a good idea to pause before bringing in things. Oh, where have I gone? Oh, there it is. Sorry, I backed out. So, which should I put down first? You've got sort of a good character. Let's start with the good character.
And when you say good, you mean like morally good?
Morally good.
Like, there's a good person.
True neutral. Or whatever.
Say all your stuff's good, Kev.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, dude. I'm going to turn off joints. So I've just knocked this together over the last week or two from actually compiling lots of bits. So I didn't sculpt a huge amount of this. I found things already on the server and cobbled them together, made edits where I needed to create this character.
Dreams is so good at doing that.
Which is what it's really powerful for. Just finding, like, actually, so funny enough, like her boots came off a completely different character. I didn't have time to make boots.
Was it a cat?
No, it wasn't.
So what does this character do then, Kev?
So let's quickly dive into play mode, and then possess the character. So I've just given her sort of a basic skill set. So she's got a standard attack, a sort of combo attack, and a charge spinning attack.
Nice.
Some sort of.
She can also, she has, I had to, again, cobble some sounds together. I didn't have time to record any, maybe we can do that later. So yeah, we've got D-pad for choosing between her sword and her torch, so she can explore and investigate the environment, and then her torch is sort of on the gyro, so she can wave it around by moving the pad about.
Nice.
And she has a block as well. And that's the basic things that I've given her.
That's all
Just
you
a
need,
sort of
isn't it?
standard
Isn't it?
character. Oh, she can run. She can run.
Here we go.
In case she needs to run away from something. And that's basically it. And this is all done using logic that was sort of conceived by Matt Willis, who does a lot of the work on the logic system.
He's one of our programmers.
One of our programmers. And actually, with the characters, really, it's a shout out to every programmer, because the characters are the perfect storm of every element of the game.
That's true, actually. The programmers don't often get to appear on streams.
Yeah.
And you often see us as sort of content makers, but, you know, it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't
None
for
of
the
it would be
hard work of
possible.
all the coders, and they're all absolutely legends. So well done.
Exactly.
code team.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you for making my life better.
And so I spend a lot of time testing the characters and trying to find ways to make them simple. And this is a reasonably complicated.
So what are we looking at? If you
circuit.
Explain some of the things
So
that
this
you're
is
looking at.
the brain.
The
So
brain.
this is
Yeah.
basically all the abilities the
And
character
what are
has.
these things that you've got on here at the moment?
So we start off with the control sensor, which is really where the whole thing starts. When you possess the character, this starts to detect the inputs from the DS4 and then fire them out. If you come down here, we can see all the buttons firing out, and these are going to my different circuits, sort of sub-circuits. So we've got our attack and block state machine.
Cool, and you've got a load of logic hidden in there that you've made,
Yeah,
which
so
is
I've-
really cool, but you've like compartmentalized it, like
Yes,
folded
exactly.
it basically
Exactly.
to keep it nice and neat.
Hopefully it makes it readable and also not a complete nightmare to sort of debug, or for me to sort of find
Remember we did that
things.
Comic Sans stream and we had the character, the little square dude, and then John opened up the logic and it was just like.
Because I didn't have time to do this, I was like free-forming it
Yeah.
because on a train.
So
So
I did,
you've put the effort into actually tidying it up and making it into these little sub microchips.
That's right. I hadn't done this, and John was like, "Can you please?" And I did, because he was right. It was a little bit of a mess.
And now, interestingly, the wires at the moment, they're just auto going to where they want, but you can actually put little nodes on the wires and you can move them around.
Oh, yeah.
And so you can route the wires to make them all nice and neat as well if you want.
That's
But you usually do that at the end once your logic's in place.
That's exactly right. And I've done it here and there, but it takes time to do.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if you suddenly decide you want to change the circuit, it just, I find, it's best
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
it at the end.
Yeah,
So,
tidy it up.
So what's
Um,
inside these other circuits then?
So the main one I want to show is the state machine, and this is like the main thing that makes all the attacks work. So basically, you have your main state, which is here, and when you start possession, that state becomes active. Now, whenever you press any of the buttons in the control sensor, that feeds through the circuit and activates the different states.
Yep.
Ah,
And you've
so-
done that by going through one of these exclusive gates.
Yeah,
which-
it's called an exclusive gate, exactly. And this is what Matt came up with. This was his idea of how to get. And the really thing that makes it really simple is you can only ever be in one state at a time. So, and when you're in that state, all the other states get powered off. So rather than having to worry about lots of wires looping back and sort of having lots of if and and statements, you're just saying, no, you're in this state.
Yeah.
Everything else is
And
gone.
when Kev says state, what he means is like it's when you switch into I am now in attack swing mode. So it'd be turning on an animation of like swinging.
quickly
It'd be like
try.
turning down the warp speed, perhaps.
Yeah.
It will be
Yes, exactly.
like turning on the damage trigger zone, all that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. So a state is basically like it's just a state of being, which can be
exactly.
whatever you want.
I'm
it to
quickly
be.
what I can do is if I put it on remote control, so I don't actually have to possess the character, and then I just run time and press square, you'll see that this is active, this state. And when I press square, this state becomes active.
And also brings the menu up.
And brings the menu up. Well, it's because you're in edit
Okay,
mode.
cool. So
So the other thing about
nice.
the states is that basically each state just has a timeline in it, which has my animation of the attack or whatever it is, and then any other signals I need to feed out to damage modifiers, health modifiers, whatever. When the timeline ends, it reverts back to the base state.
Yeah.
And that's simple as that. So whenever you want to add a new state, it's just as simple as taking the state you've got, reanimating it, deciding how you want to trigger it, and
So
Once
I'd say
you're
this
on,
is
you're away.
like, for the most part, this is quite complex logic, and it's because you know the tool
Reasonably.
so well.
Yeah.
You've like really gone down into it, and you've made the character do what you want to do.
totally.
But of course, the default character will be able to do a load of cool things as well, without having to
Yeah.
go in and organise all these states and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But this is something you can do if you want
Totally.
to.
I mean, I imagine we'll have some circuits all ready to go, like a state machine that you could just put on your character. It's just got the base state and one state set up, and then you can start
Yep.
manipulating it yourself, and hopefully
Cool.
it'll be understandable. If you take a character that's fully fledged, it might be a bit hard to read what's going on because there's so much, but hopefully it will definitely have characters which are simple versions of these.
But the end result now is a character that's got all these various different moves and like seamlessly transitions between them, which is really cool.
Exactly.
So let's just have a look at the character in play mode again.
Yeah, let's do that.
Now that we've talked about like how it
works. So it's in one state now, which is like I'm walking
This is
an
the idle.
Yeah,
It's just the idle. There's nothing really. It's just using the basic character setup to run everything.
I love the use of the strokes for the cloak on the back. That's really nice.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, finding ways. Actually, the shoulder pads have. You
Little
can't
bit of
quite
wobble
see
on
it,
them.
but yeah, you can set wobble on different pieces just to get that secondary motion, which really does sell any character that you do. Just having those little bits that move. Her necklace actually will go up and down as she jumps.
I've realised looking at this now that we need to put some light in here because there's no shadows because we need to get some
Yes,
dark
that's
light
true.
coming on. So that'd be the next thing I do.
she sounds really unsure of herself. Like,
Yeah. Nice. Yeah,
Cool.
that's it.
Some-
What I'll do is I'll pop in the other character so it's there and we can work with it. So I made a sort of evil knight to go with it.
Evil Knight.
And this
Evil
one's
one.
done so that it sort of will start off as a statue.
Yeah.
And at some point it can wake up and possibly cause some
those
issues.
pantaloons.
Seeing some odd stuff there, that's because I've got a base animation on it. So it's going, when I pick it up, it's going between its actual pose and this sort of statue pose.
Okay.
Just waking him up.
And this uses
Cool.
exactly the same
Same
state
set of
machine
logic,
as
yeah.
before.
Yeah,
And
cool.
what I'm just going to do is turn off this so that it doesn't
Turn off his brain.
turn off his brain is what I was going to do, so he doesn't just wake up immediately and attack everyone.
Should we see what it looks like? Should we just?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what that looks
So
like.
if I just let it run, he'll just sort of wake up.
And this is an animation you've made, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
okay.
quickly animated that. I mean, it animates. If you take the time, your animations can be as good as you want them to be. The animation system is really powerful. I've done this quite quickly, but even doing quick animations, you can get very, acceptable stuff out of it. It's great.
Cool.
And I've even put on a little thing for it to follow an attack. But we'll turn all that
We'll
on
turn
later
that off.
on.
Yeah, turn the brain off for now. Great.
So for now, I just need to. Yeah, it's just. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just delete him. We'll put him back
Yeah, put
in
him
when
back
we
in.
need him, when we know where we need him.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to quickly pop back to me, and I'm going to add a couple of bits of logic and stuff, and ambience, so then Ed can add some wicked sound effects. And like I mentioned earlier, I think we need a bit more light in here, right? So I am going to put some light in, and the best way to do that when you're in a church is some stained glass window style jobbers, I reckon. So let's make a hole for it here, and then I'm going to get out my back into search
Just quick drum roll.
and
is that-
quick drum roll. Yeah. It's because sometimes when the tracking goes off, you just shake
Yes.
it and it fixes
Oh,
itself
that's
up, which is really cool. Okay, so I've got the this cool looking church window, and this time I'm not going to dig out a hole out the middle of it. Instead, I'm going to stick it
It's
over
interesting
here.
with the controls that your choice is predominantly, even when you're designing, you use the moves.
Yeah, I find it faster to sort of navigate around. Whenever I'm like assembling stuff, I tend to do that. I mean, you guys have seen streams of me in the past, so you've seen me making stuff absolutely fine with the DualShock. Depends.
Because it is a preference, I think, because all the characters
Yeah.
are made entirely with DS4. I didn't use
Absolutely.
any moves. I think I used the moves just to do the capes,
Yeah.
just to get the nice curvature. To
I would
the
actually
capes.
say when I'm doing design stuff and finessing things later on, I go for the DualShock, like especially if I'm doing any kind of logic related stuff. Like it's all about the DualShock for me then.
Nice.
So yeah, it kind of depends on like what it is you're doing, I think, and this I feel requires the moves. So there we go. So I've got a window, but it needs some light coming through, and there's a couple of cool little tricks that I'm going to show you now. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some glass in front of it, and I'm just going to sculpt a new bit of glass. So I'm going to go into sculpt mode, and we start off with our little square that you guys have seen before, and I'm just going to stretch it up into sort of like a glass shape that fills up that whole window. There we go, cool. And I'm just going to put it back in so it's about there. Now, a cool thing about any objects in the game is they have like all these different tweaks that we've seen before. So what I'm going to do on this particular one is tweak it and say I don't want it to cast shadows, never cast shadows, which is cool. This
means
is
light will just go straight
light will
through
just
it.
go straight through it. And I'm going to do actually the same on these big roof sections here. It makes sense in a second why. So let's get that to not cast any shadows either. Okay, cool. Okay, and now it means if I get a light Let's turn grid off for a second. If I get a light from our little gadget collection here. And where's light? There's light. Okay, you can see I've got a light, but if I put it on the other side of this wall, so if I go outside and I aim it roughly at that window, which I know is about there, let's make the beam angle to make it more likely that I'm going to hit it. There we go. You can see I'm starting to cast some light through. You can see even some slight faint God rays there. But the other thing I'm going to do on that bit of glass, you can say whether it's like metallic or not, or shiny, but if you make it waxy, it actually means light kind of passes through it in like a cool way. So now it's been lit up by the outside by that. And we can just tune that light, and annoyingly I can't quite see it, so I'm just going to kind of guess here like that. There we go. So now I have light coming through this window, and it looks quite sort of atmospheric, little imp cache lights there. And this kind of makes it look like it's daytime. And I could do the same, you know, we can copy windows and paste them over here, which I may do in a second. But what I want to do first is make it look more like a stained glass window. So instead of just a white light, I'm going to tweak the light in here. And one of the options here is use image, and you can cycle it through here, and you can see what that does. It puts like a mask over it. So if I use this one, which kind of looks like refracted stained glass window-ness, and blur it a tiny bit like this, and I make it like a red colour, then I just copy a couple more and put them at slightly different angles, only slightly, and we make it, say, green or yellowy colour, and another one which we do like classic blue. There we go.
Nice. You can just see the chat out the corner of my eye, like losing their mind.
And so when we look inside, we start getting this sort of stained glass window effect much more. In fact, we can just get them and tweak them while I'm on the inside now, so I don't have to be on the outside. So yeah, multi-select them, so I don't have to be on the outside. So now I can sort of tune this angle and everything to make sure I get the sort of stained glass window effect that I require. So we can turn or increase the blur.
So many nifty
we
little
can change the sort of brightness and
little tricks like this. Like there isn't a glass object. There isn't a way of saying like make a glass, but and same with like making things wood or metal. You've got all these different tweaks that can be used in lots of different ways to give the impression. This is why I love sitting in on these streams.
Yeah,
yeah, it's so cool. Yeah. So once I've you know, blurred it to my heart's content and made it, I now have a stained glass window. And what's cool is look, the wax picks up the colours as well, so it totally looks like stained glass window. And in fact, what I'm going to do on here is we have this colour, so we can change the colour of this glass a little bit. You know, we can tune it to how we want. But if I make it a tiny bit looser, look, check this out. So there we go. And you can just about see it sort of getting looser, especially if you're close, you'll notice it. And you can actually change the inside colour of it. So if I make that black like that,
that's cool.
And then we increase the looseness enough and the sort of impasto, we can actually start making it look more like, you know, it's got like those little bits of stained glass window on them. So cool, I'm happy with that. That's a nice looking Gothic-y stained glass window.
Could you actually do like a sculpt made from loads of little pieces? You know how they have those like pictures essentially made out of those bits of glass? So if you want to take the time to it, you could make a proper...
Oh yeah, we could have spent like an hour or more making a cool stained glass window, you know, like it's...
Wow.
Yeah,
and each one could have a separate colour, which would be like letting through a little bit more.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. Okay.
Oh, wow, I'm going to do that.
So I'm happy with my thing now here. I want to put change the ambience of the whole level. So I'm just going to get my sun and sky gadget out. Gadgets that you guys have seen a few times before. I'm going to make the sun like a more bluey colour to sort of try and simulate the moon, you know, that kind of vibe.
I think that we're at night now.
We're at night, it's gonna get a bit darker. I know we've got this coming through, but this is going to be like stylistic choices going on in there.
Whatever.
And
it just adds to the creepiness level.
Let's make the sky...
The moon is very bright.
Darker, so you know, we've got like...
But it's the window that gives the colour.
So now it's really starting to get sort of Gothic and dark, and I think now what I want to do is just put a couple of lights in here to like give like some atmospheric lighting. So let's make it like slightly orange colour as if it's going to be like the torches. Let's move that out of the way. And then we can sort of put that here, and we can like change all, like there's so many options that you can change. It's really, really cool. Put it like that. We can make it a little bit darker, you know, so we've just got that sort of atmosphere going on.
So now you can also set lights to be emit in all directions, but personally I'll always go for a spotlight. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, spotlight. In fact, let's just do that. Let's put it onto diffuse. So this means it basically, like, depending on how bright you have it, it emits light everywhere. So for that I've got to make it a bit brighter.
Yeah.
But that's really cool for just like, you know, I can put it over near the torches here like this, I can make it more orangey or more ready to like match the colour of those torches.
You can animate that as well, so it's like flickering.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And you know, we can really start like bumping up the atmosphere. Let's put one near the skull, 'cause I know that Dan obviously had that on earlier. It's really cool. Yeah, for Dan.
Dan the Skull Man.
For Dan, and let's put one up here.
Cult of Goddard.
Yeah, this is for you, Dan. Now what I want to do though is just to show off like a couple of bits of logic. So I know you guys like the logic and actually like how we do it from scratch. I'm going to make it look like it's a bit stormy. So we're going to.
Well, again, one of our suggestions for the stream was
exactly.
dark and stormy.
So it's dark.
And
time
now
for
it's
the
going to be stormy.
So using the same technique we used before, I'm just going to copy this light here, and I'm going to turn off its pattern. I'm going to make it like an electric blue colour. Here we go, something like that. And I'm going to make it really bright, like, you know, as bright as you can get.
1,000% bright.
That's how bright you can. And let's look at it from the inside. It needs to be more blue. You know, we really want that sort of electric blue, because you can probably guess where this is
What's
going,
going
right?
to happen?
Okay, so
UFO.
Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Well, actually, one of the suggestions.
John is like, oh.
Who am I working with? Okay, so let's get that at a nice angle. So cool. And now what we want to do is sort of make it flash at the right time. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a couple of gadgets. One is a remapper, and a remapper we use all the time for everything. The audio guys especially use it a lot. And what this allows you to do is smooth things out or remap them. So like 1 becomes 4.7, you know, because you may want something to be dimmer based on the signal it's getting. But in this case, what I want to do is say pulse when it goes on. So when this detects some power, it's going to pulse on. It's going to go up instantly because we've got no 0 seconds, so instantaneous rise, and it's going to fade off over 0.3 seconds. So that's going to be like the after flash.
So by and large, the wires transmit a value of between 0 and 1 for like the most simple type of wires, right? So when you were to give that its first input, it just goes, I'm going to go straight up to 1, and then you're going to recede down to...
Totally. 1 in this case means 1,000% brightness, you know. And now I've got a slider, and this is like your own custom slider. It's the same as like the sliders you get on your tweak menus here, like this, apart from it's one you get to put yourself in the world and connect it into what you want. So I'm going to connect it into the input of this. And that means if time was running, if I put this up, it's going to make this light flash. So without further ado, I'm going to get a action recorder, and I'm just going to animate a bit of a performance here like this. So I'm just going to like that up, double flash. Some sound effects, please, Ed. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. There we go. Okay, cool.
My job's done. Bye.
Thanks, Ed. That's all we need.
Now that's recorded it, you can see it moving there, and we can go inside and we can check out what that looks like from the inside point of view. So, you know, we're starting to get some awesome lightning effects come through.
And the action recorder just loops by default, doesn't it?
Just loops by default. And so what we could even do now at this point, is since it's looping, is we can get the light and the gadgets that we used, and just go select them all like this. Let's get that, make sure that one's selected. So I've got them all, and I can group them together. So that's like our lightning effect thing. And I can copy that whole thing, and let's just get it like at a different angle. Because you know when you see lightning comes in through windows, it kind of goes like and like changes direction. But
That's
since
a great
these
little piece of
thanks,
acting, man.
these action recorders would be synced currently. So what I'm just going to do is tweak the action recorder and just go change the playback speed down a little bit. So this is going to over time throw them out of sync. And then to complete my atmosphere, I'm going to add the grade gadget, which you guys have seen, which really, really is nice for doing these subtle changes at the end. So what I want to do is put on a whole bunch of bloom, because we want to make it like really flash out when the lightning comes. Bit of vignette, because it's a bit gothy, lens flare, get all that kind of stuff. Maybe some grain, because that's quite gothic actually, you know, just like. And then on the last page, I always love turning up the chromatic aberration just a little bit, makes it look a bit more realistic. And we can jump into play mode, and we can run around with our character.
I like that shot there.
That's a good shot, yeah.
So we start behind the door.
So now we've got our stained glass windows, and we've got lightning coming in through the old stained glass window up there, which is pretty cool. And you can see the lightning now. If we wait for a second, you'll see one flash. And I've noticed I've made the other light it's completely missed.
Right.
I've pointed it in the wrong direction,
I saw that earlier.
which is a shame. So I'm just gonna rewind, and then just go make sure that light is pointing where we want it. So let's just go in there, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's probably somewhere more like that. There we go. Wicked. And I think I'm going to pass it over to Ed, who's going to add some awesome ambience and sound effects to go with the stormy night we've got going on.
Okay, cool. Back to this. So
we should put a camera zone in actually, so the camera starts facing the right way. Actually, it'd be a good idea. So we'll do that next.
That's awesome.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So yeah, we now got a very quiet sort of cathedral-esque area, castle thing. So I'm going to make the sort of background sound of the entire world, and we're going to tailor it to where we are in the cathedral.
Wicked.
Just going to turn off your chromatic aberration, because you always do this. You put it on.
I know. I
it's
get
like,
excited.
Now it's time for you to work in this dirty level.
You realise you can use studio lighting if you want, Ed.
That's always good. Yeah.
True.
Which
Thanks.
yeah.
There
So
we go.
studio lighting turns off all the effects, filters, and puts like a neutral light on, so it makes it very easy for you to
Yeah.
work. So even if you've made your level start in
Super
complete
dark.
darkness, you know, because you're say walking around in a cave, you can still work without having to keep turning your lights on and off.
So I'm going to start by grabbing a microchip, because it's always handy to keep your work nice and neat. And then I'm going to go to sound mode.
Yay for neat circuits.
Yay.
It's the best.
And we've had a look at instruments on a previous stream, but next to that we've got our sound effect collection, which has got a whole load of different categories of cool stuff for you to just dump in your game. So if we go to ambience, we'll find all our various collections of ambient sounds, nature,
Nature.
yeah, underground, ooh, catacombs, that might come in useful. But we've got some weather as well. Now, what I mean by ambience is these are just the sort of building blocks of the sort of soundscape of your level. It's sort of the bare minimum that you put in just so that you're avoiding that digital silence of your level. Ooh, I think I'm going to make it rain.
Ooh, that means I'm going to have to make it rain.
You're going to have to make it rain.
Okay, I can do that. Put weather sound effects in.
Okay. So I'm just going to grab a bunch of these, maybe heavy rain and splatty rain, because we can have lots of it at the same time. And all you need to do is dump them in and they start playing.
Awesome.
So the first thing I might do to tweak these is to give them a nice fade in and fade out, so when the game starts we get a fade in, not abrupt, and when the game stops we get a fade out.
Nice.
I can mix them. That's fine, that's all I need to do with those. What I might do also is to pan them. So I've got the heavy rain coming from, medium rain coming from the left, and the heavy rain coming from the right. So this is if you have like a, well, you get it on your TV stereo speakers, but if you have a surround sound setup as well, you can also pan certain sounds to the rears like that.
So is this supposed to simulate like the heavy rain hitting one side of the building?
Yeah,
kind of thing,
exactly.
You know, that
Yeah.
kind of.
You can also just increase the width of them like this, so that the stereo image is going to be a bit wider, make it sound bigger.
So you can say like it's really, really coming from the left, or it's
Yeah, yeah,
genuinely coming from the
exactly,
okay,
yeah,
that was my right. I realise it's
I always do
the
that.
left.
So there's some rain. I think we'll keep adding bits. Doesn't sound like a soft park wind at all. I'm going to go for the whistling wind, keep it spooky.
Yeah, it's nice and eerie.
Ooh, spooky.
It's maybe a little too sort of high pitched, so I'm going to go for like.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to reverb that out as well.
Oh, because you're inside a cathedral or
Yeah,
church
yeah, yeah.
thing.
Just to make it spookier, basically. I do the same thing by making it sort of gradually fade in.
That's cool.
So now our ambience has got those three elements. And obviously we're outside the cathedral at this point. Let's add some thunder
Oh,
to go with your
throw
flash
the
and lightning.
lights. Yeah, cool.
So I made this a little earlier, and this has 3 sound effects that have been sort of upgraded to have a performance canvas. Now you may have seen these in the music stream that we're doing, and sound and music components work in exactly the same way. They have this performance interface. So I can use the imp to play on this interface. I can maybe make it
Oh, so you're actually
muffled.
performing the lightning
performing
now?
the Yeah.
sounds.
That's
It's awesome.
really cool. Whoa.
And these sort of circles are the effect fields, which we've looked at in the music streams as well.
So it's exactly the same. It's just
Totally,
You're just
yeah,
applying
yeah.
it to a sound effect,
Wow.
not music.
Yeah,
it's
same
cool.
thing. So this one is like a rolling sort of thunder that is going to get a loop forever, hopefully. And all this effect field is doing is bringing the volume up of it.
Yeah. Wow. I love how in this particular case the stroke that the imp is leaving looks like lightning.
Yeah.
Just you know.
Nice.
Serendipitous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Cool. So I'm just going to like do some rolling thunder.
As does she, sort of wobbling like she's in the wind.
Cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
You're actually recording this now. It's so cool.
Yeah, shout out to Bogdan and the rest of the audio team coding this amazing tool. It's just amazing.
But I mean, it's just like Foley, you know, in films you see the
Yeah,
behind the
yeah,
scenes,
yeah.
you know, where they get like bits of wood and they're whacking it and
Stepping
stuff, you know, in time. This is
That's
basically
it.
what Ed's doing. but
They're
it's like
performing it,
in-game
yeah.
Foley. It's
Just like that.
really
yeah. So now we've got a sort of rumbling
on a
there.
table.
Which is going to loop. I'm going to do some strikes.
Lightning I made earlier.
Now these are actually more explosive, so we can I can preview these and we go for like either these ones or the explosive ones.
Oh.
Just the extreme
Where
ones.
did these? How did you get these sounds then? And like,
We recorded these. This is from Guildford a couple of years ago. So
An actual storm.
actual
It's
storm.
just
Yeah.
you out there.
Honestly, sound designers, whenever there is like inclement weather, we're just out there with the thing.
In a rubber suit, or you just?
Yeah, no, I wear rubber suits
Yeah.
every Friday, so it just happened.
No, I kind of meant. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Anyway, so this is some explosive lightning. Just a bit of break.
I don't know, like I said, to perform in it, you can wait for
Yeah,
that like,
he
perfect amount of time
knows,
until
he
you know strikes again. It's really good. It's like, you know, we've said loads of times, like our mantra and our philosophy is all about performance. You know, and it's like this just really highlights that fact.
Yeah.
Okay, so here are the elements of the. I'm going to put them in the same microchip as the weather, so I don't need this anymore.
Cool.
So I wonder if we can somehow sync my sounds to your lightning.
Oh,
yeah, can we use
that's
the
a great
logic
idea.
to drive
Yeah.
one with the other?
Let's do that then.
So if we've got our explosive lightning,
Yeah.
on this page here we've got some outputs, and these are all the things that the sound that the game is told about the sound.
Okay.
So we've got like per beat triggers, per bar triggers. This is how we make like our music videos and have everything sort of flash in time in the music.
Great.
One of them is note on. So that is like whenever a note happens, and those lightning strikes are essentially notes.
Yep.
So if I feed this into, how about I
the
give you
remapper.
like a port or something, or in both, yeah, but into both of your remappers, right?
Yeah. And if you did one lightning into one of them and then the other lightning into, oh no, it's
There's only one of them.
Oh yeah, just stick it into both,
Okay.
and then we get a double
So-
flash, and you can then delete my sliders, right?
Right.
They might be in
It's
a
in a
group,
group,
so-
Yeah, so you have to just go into a new. That's it.
do,
And it's the bottom bit you
It's on the
delete.
bottom bar, yeah.
Yeah, you got
It's
to.
not doing it, John.
No, you just got to grab the bottom bar because it's what do you
That's
call it?
Being weird.
Just gonna turn it off.
Sure, you can. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you do that because I think
Okay.
that should technically work. But,
There's another slider over there you might want to get rid of, else it's going to interfere with your awesome bit
There
of
you
logic.
go.
I do it. So yeah, we can delete these. Now the reason that you were finding it hard to delete then, I think, is because if you grab the top bit, it's for moving the slider,
Right.
and pressing triangle resets back to default.
Yeah, I
So
gotcha.
you've got to delete the right bit, which is that bit there, which is just the bottom bit. So and this one's
Oh, interesting. That one's become detached. I've not seen
Yeah.
that happen before.
new bugs are funny. Oh, I've deleted
Oh,
the
that,
entire.
no.
that one's in a new group, remember?
That's what I did. Oh, I was deleting the whole group both times. In fact, what we're just going to do really
Take the
simply
wires
is
out.
Take the wires out. Yeah, if in doubt, take the wires out.
There are a few bugs.
Yeah, okay, bugs, yeah,
Okay.
So,
We don't, do we need the actual
and then
borders? No,
have
doesn't matter.
you've now
I've wired
put-
them in
you've-
from the sound,
You've
yeah.
definitely wired them in. This,
Yes.
yeah, they're still going in. Yeah, just checking. Yeah, cool. Okay, so, and I was going to put a camera zone, wasn't I, just to make sure that we're looking the right
remembered.
way each time, so we don't
I
start
haven't
behind
saved
the
this
door.
yet. We should probably give it a save.
Let's
Nah.
Live dangerous.
Okay, so
That's
what
a
I'm
good
going to
point. It does happen. You get so lost in making
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
suddenly
I'm going to
realise.
stick a camera
Luckily, there is an
down here, which
autosave.
is sticking downwards,
Right.
and then as you progress back up through the church like this, I'm just going to stick this one pointing more up, so like the view hopefully will sort of pan up as
Yep.
you're moving down
So
to
these aren't the same as static cameras, are they? These are the things that will
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of like help you frame, but not explicitly stay.
Yeah, exactly. So as I move through, you'll see the camera starts to
Dip down,
pan out
nice.
like this.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
And in fact, because Ed turned off our awesome lights and stuff earlier, because he's such a meanie, let's go put that back on because that will help with the lightning much more.
I think the lightning could probably be dialed up to.
In fact, yeah, so let's do that. So another little trick is I've got lightning coming in through the window and I've got it as bright as I can, which is cool. But to really sort of sell the fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get, in fact, I'm just going to copy one of the lights that are outside, the lightning lights. So let's go into there, let's copy that, come out, I'm going to put it inside, which is overly bright at the moment. So it's going to tone it down from 1,000%. I'm just going to make it that kind of brightness. I'm going to put a big old beam angle on it like this. And let's go get it so it kind of lights up the inside, almost like as if it's like reflected light of the lightning coming through the window. And then all I've got to do is make sure that that is wired up to the exact same trigger outputs like this.
So now you're sort of doing ambient light as well.
Ambient light. So now, hopefully, when we get the old lightning, there we go. So now we're lighting it all up, which is pretty great.
That's great.
And in fact, before I hand it back to Ed to doing the other ambience, I'm going to desaturate, because Gothic stuff is always like low, you know, like super, almost black and white.
Oh, nice.
Not quite there.
I've lost the lovely colours.
But like,
yeah, you're right.
yeah, you know, like it's like properly
almost sepia.
yeah, almost sepia. So
That's wicked.
there we go. And then
I was almost finished with that. I was just going to do one last thing.
I just saw in the text they said that we should point the reflected light at the opposite wall.
we should do. I know. I was thinking that as I was doing it. I was thinking that. Well done.
Well done,
doing
chat.
that.
Well done.
I can't do
Classic.
anything right.
No, John, I didn't mean it like that.
John,
It's the
man.
kind of thing that
Come on.
that happens. You're building, you're just making stuff.
I know.
I mean, he tries.
I do. Yeah, I do try.
Thanks for QAing our level for
Thanks.
us.
So because I was building the ambience for the whole of this world, not just this little crypt that we're making, what I think I'd do is try and make this particular bit sound like it's indoors. And you saw on the instruments of the lightning, we had those circles.
Yeah.
That was an effect field, and you can use these effect fields in a microchip, or even like raw in the world if
They're
you want.
saying ow, 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 my ears. Why?
Oh, this is the lightning.
The lightning too loud. Ah.
Sorry,
Sorry,
guys.
dudes.
No. Oh. Tom is gesticulating something to us. I don't know.
Tell us what you're saying, Tom.
When you were all laughing at the same time, it was just very.
Oh, okay.
Mustn't
No.
laugh.
We are
Get
working on
laughing,
getting the
guys.
sound perfect. We do promise. We have Tom Colvin. Shout out to Tom Colvin,
Sniggers
everybody.
only.
Tom thought he had to be silent, but you can talk to us,
Yeah,
Tom.
yeah.
Tom is our behind-the-scenes awesome dude who's sorting everything out.
So what I've done here is make an effect field which is called inside. Does nothing until I start tweaking it, and this has all the same tweaks that these sounds do. But the cool thing about the effect field is that it will affect all of these sounds in the same microchip. So if I take the high cut frequency,
Nice.
make that.
Instantly, that sounds just so cool.
Oh, so you're just making it sound like it's inside.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
I can reverberate it a little bit.
yeah. Super reverberation. It's like, oh my god, it's so cool.
Does it feel cozy right now?
I'm just going to give that a colour as well, make it so I know which one's that. Boop. Okay, so whilst this is activated,
Yeah.
we have the inside ambience. So when it's off, we have the outside ambience.
Oh god, I'm gonna have to put that some logic now. So
You
when we go
probably are,
outside,
yeah.
Ed keeps making sounds that I keep having to make logic for.
Hard life.
That's the fun of working together, though, isn't it? You sort of bounce off each other, and
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so
who
that
knows
should
where
all
it'll
loop.
go.
So yeah, if you want to make it inside, I'll leave it switched on, and then if we do an outdoor area later, if we have time, then we can switch it off again.
Well, I'll just do that like ridiculously quickly. We should just do that. So let's just do it. Okay, so I am going to get the character, and this time I'm going to make the character start at this end, and we're going to go out through the door instead.
Nice.
And which means I just want to instead kind of put that more level like this. And what we want is the door to open when we get there, right? Because we've got this like cool swinging door that we built earlier, so we want to use that. So a couple of things I'm going to do is leave sound mode, and I'm going to go into studio lighting so I can get rid of my own amazing effects. I'm just going to get a trigger zone, and this trigger zone is going to trigger this door opening. And I'm just going to stick it down on the ground down here like this, and see what size that is. That's probably big enough. And it's just like when the character walks into this area, we're going to make these doors open. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to get a keyframe, and I'm just going to keyframe these doors open. Like
Opens towards you. That's spooky.
oh, that one's. I
Nice.
love how that one.
It's your jaunty
Yeah,
door.
I really like that. I really like that. And just going to wire that in. And what that would mean is, as I get there, they would instantly open. So on the keyframe, it has its own smooth in. So I'm just going to smooth it in so that it opens when we're in the trigger zone. Oh, and I need to make the end state permanent, which means that once I'm in there, they don't revert back to how they
Slam
were.
in your face.
And slam in your face, yeah. Let's check that out.
So saw someone in the stream asking if the particle system is good. Yeah, it's good.
It's good. We're about to do some particles.
The particle system's used to do the cape. It's used to do the fire. It's used to do the rain. We're probably going to do in a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything. It's really.
Let's
It's
switch
very,
over to
very
moves
good.
then to do this bit very quickly.
Thanks, Mark Adami, coder who put all the effort
He
into
is
that. Another genius that we
legend,
have here.
Absolutely. So I can go onto here. I'm going to copy this awesome group of floor panels that I made earlier. And
The patio.
the patio, and I know you can't see it, but it's hopefully gone out the back.
It's
Yeah,
there.
there we go. And this is outside the cathedral now. It's kind of. Let's just make sure that lines up nicely. There we go. Perfection. Cool. And I'll just get perhaps one of those arches just so we can make
On
it
the front. Sort of.
yeah, kind
that's
of disguise my sloppy workmanship. Fun fact, some of you will know, I used to be a builder and I started working on churches, was like the first where I learnt my trade. I was a stonemason. So
Nice.
yeah. So
Look
this
at you
is-
now.
yeah,
It's
this
like a
is-
coming home party.
this is like a coming home party, yeah. And let's go all the way up here like this and make it look like super grand. Look at that. It's like going into the depths of hell or something. I don't know. It's quite exciting. And I'm just going to delete those ones on those sides because we don't need those. Look at that neatening it all up. Look. There we go. Cool.
I guess one of the
Nice.
benefits of using that same cube over again is actually in terms of your budget, right? It's going to be a fairly cheap level because you're using exactly
Absolutely.
the same tile and you like
Absolutely.
moving.
It makes it a lot cheaper, yeah, when you use the same thing over and over again.
I did see someone in the chat ask a minute ago if we can show the thermometer for the level, but I don't know if we should.
Not today.
Because
Not
we're
today,
we're
yeah,
building
we're-
in this
yeah,
way.
yeah, we're
there's
still-
no way it would show well because we're not thinking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
And it's
But,
not
we
a
do
finished
have one.
feature. There is one, and it's just not
Exactly.
something that's finished at the moment. But rest assured, you can build some cool.
When I was building the characters for it, I thought I used the thermometer a lot to make sure that I'm not gonna plonk the character into the level and just eat the budget.
Exactly.
So,
Which you
and a lot of these
don't want to
assets
do.
will have been made with that in mind.
Okay. And let's go stick a load of this in here like this, and perhaps way off in the distance. Hopefully this will
Maybe
look.
we will show it when we're done. Who knows? I've seen a few people saying about the thermometer.
Yeah, I mean it will get shown at some point.
Yeah.
It's probably not today. Okay, so we've got like our outside bit, and I'm going to put a couple of gnarly trees that I happen to see. There we go. That's not that
Classic.
one. Classic. Someone's been working on files. So I actually put some in earlier that I tested that work really nicely. So let's go to our collection, my collections, and we have this
Nice
gnarly
and
tree,
creepy.
which looks
Bit more
quite cool, a
gothic.
bit more gothic. Yeah, so let's get a couple of these around. I know it looks all nice and green, but don't forget, as soon as we go into play mode, this will all
It's got
The
a
environment
hole.
will go back again.
darken up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now what I want to do is add a trigger zone, which is like, so while I'm inside, we get the correct sounds, which I'm going to hook up into Ed's
Is that-
awesome.
Yes, that would work. We could do like that.
Yeah.
So we do it on the door as well. Actually, so when the door opens, it could, but like the trigger zones.
Yeah, the trigger zone,
Yeah.
we can actually have a little fade off then, which would be really nice.
Aha,
So
yes.
if I get the trigger zone and I stomp it down on the floor there, and then we open up that trigger zone and we turn it into a square shape, which will match this area a bit better. And let's go grab that, and we're just going to scale it up kind of to about there, something like that. So it's like while you're inside the zone, and then I can even stretch that out like this. And then I want a fall off. So while this is out, I can use the shift button to do a fall off. So that's going to be like the fall off between being inside and being outside, basically,
Mhm.
which would be quite nice.
So someone asking if we can add some fog. I think we should
Yeah.
do.
Oh, yeah,
some
we're
interior
fog
and
outside.
We're,
exterior.
we're
Yeah.
totally going to do that. We're totally going to do that. Okay, so
Maybe a nice misty fog on the ground on the exterior.
now what
might
I'm
be
going to
nice.
do then is close this down, get the output here, the detected, and just wire that into Ed's awesome
It's
audio.
giving
that
you a
he did
workout to
earlier.
try and
yeah,
find
yeah, I
out.
know. So there we go,
Cool.
inside. So that should now work. And what I'm also going to do is I happen to know in our collection we have some rain. And this is like some rain I built earlier. So let's just see what it looks like in play mode. There we go, we've got some rain coming down.
Windy rain.
And again, we only want that playing
Yeah,
while we're
right outside.
on the outside, right? So in this particular case, I want it playing when we're on the outside, not when inside. So I need to get a tiny bit of logic, which is a not gate. And what this does is, this is when inside. So when not inside, and then I can get one of these bits of rain, open it up, which is a group. I'm very sorry. Let's go into that little Get it. Ooh, missed it.
Raindrops,
Get it.
tools,
Could you
tools.
how about you turn the group off? Would that work?
No, it's because it's so small, and then I've got to. There we go. Straight.
Oh, okay.
I did
Nailed
it.
it.
It was just small. And then I'm just going to wire that into the power of it like that. In fact, what would be even better is so we can get a bit of rain coming through the door. There's opacity here because we've got that fade off. So I'm just going to fade off
It's alpha.
the alpha. So let's jump into play mode and see what that's like. Okay, so we're now inside. Interestingly, I realised that the character is just outside, that the trigger zone is just there. Hilariously.
And also you weren't possessed, so which is what the trigger
Yeah,
is.
exactly. So now I'm inside, and we've got all the lightning, which is really cool. And then as we walk up to the door, and as we start heading outside,
It's raining.
the rain comes
Nice.
on.
The lovely contrast of this creation and then out our windows.
Yeah, the
Yeah, it's
beautiful
beautiful
sunny
outside.
days. So I realised
What
because
we could do with the storm.
we've gone outside like this, I realised I put the mountains and everything on the wrong side because I was looking at the wonderful cathedral. What we can do, obviously, is we can just put a different camera zone out here as well. So when we come outside, we can, switch you around to be in the other direction, which would be cool. So let's do that. Okay. How are we doing for time as well,
Got
guys?
15 minutes. left,
15
so-
minutes, okay.
Angela's just flagged it for us.
Just flagged it for us. Great, thank you, Angela.
I saw someone asking if we had versions of Iota or Sackboy as bipeds. We have actually made them using
We
the
have,
same
yes,
system.
absolutely.
Yeah. They will-
And they look really, really
yeah, they
cool.
look great.
And I'm just going to turn the camera so it's like sideways when you come out here, and then spins around. And what I should probably do is
Look at my handiwork.
yeah, look at the camera. So these blend between each one. So
This is my
what I
cue.
want to do is say
Yep.
until you're outside, then
Yeah,
start
yeah, yeah.
turning around. That should make sense. And then perhaps one over here. And this is like trial and error. You got to like fiddle around with these until you get the look you want.
But you can have as many as you want, then it'll always try and
As many as you want. Yeah, exactly. Or as few as you want. So let's get into our character. Got the inside.
Well, that leg armor looks really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's a bit pinchy, isn't it? I don't know if I thought that one through.
And then the camera turns around.
Great.
There we go. And we can look back
Yeah.
up at our
Nice.
terrifying
It's
cathedral.
very long.
And now
grass.
you would want to put a light on the outside, which is like lightning across the entire sky, if you want to, instead of just coming in through the window.
Yeah.
Okay. The last thing I want to add is a tiny bit of gameplay, so to speak, is like an arrow trap or something like that,
Okay.
like a booby trap.
Yep.
And I'm going to do that.
You're so proud of this one, aren't you?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
proper proud.
It's really simple. It's just really cool to show off.
We can do it
something
indoors,
like-
right?
Yeah, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally indoors. So, first thing we need to do is make a trap stone. So I'm going to get one of these stones. And it's going to, that is the group we had earlier. So I just want a single stone. So let's get that one and copy that. This is going to be the trap stone.
So what I'm excited about with a kit like this, you could make an entire like hallway room and then group the whole thing as one, and then just completely build the rest of the cathedral very quickly. Even though we've only
Yeah.
made one single room here, you could essentially build that out
Yeah.
really quickly now that you've put so much effort into
Absolutely.
this
I
one.
could just grab and copy this whole thing
The
and then
whole
like
thing.
Yeah.
twist it around,
Yeah.
like it's very simple for doing
So
that
it goes
kind
from
of
being
stuff.
like the smallest sort of dungeon ever to being like
Yeah,
as
Yeah.
long as you like.
redonkulous, yeah. Okay, so we've
And
got
also
that.
doing subsequent levels, because you can
Yeah.
link levels together. And people talking about the thermometer and limits earlier, like of course any engine has to have some limits, but when you hit them, you've got this level already. You could just remix it, set up your level link,
Yep.
change the level
Absolutely,
in the
yep.
remixed version to be a different room or a different area of the castle, and boom,
Okay.
you know,
So
it's so fast once you've got a few assets going.
in this case, and it's exactly the same I did with the door earlier, keyframe with the trigger zone, and all I'm going to do is turn on one of my handy guides here, which is the precise move, like this, and I'm just going to move it down nice and slowly, like to about
Question
there.
for Don: did you ever build a trapdoor like this in a real church without telling anyone?
Did you, John? Baskets.
Well,
Saints,
if
no.
I told you now, it would
Would be,
immediately
yeah.
become untrue. So, I mean,
So yes is the answer.
okay. So this time I don't want it to be permanent. I want it to go down quite fast. So, like half a second, no, maybe a second to go down. And then like 2 seconds to come back up.
Someone asking if we can
And-
do a squeaky sound effect on the door, which we could. I don't know if we'll have time to
We
do
can
it.
do, yeah, totally. So we've got a character and we've got that trapdoor stone, it's not...
the most obvious trap ever.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you stand on it, you see it drops down,
Yeah,
which is
down.
really
Nice.
nice, which is cool. But we need to hook it up to the trap,
Yep.
So let's make a trap. what I'm going to do is I'm just going to recycle one of these blocks to make the trap. So I'm just going to turn grid back on quickly. Oops, got the entire thing there. Let's get this one. And I'm going to repurpose this one.
Out of the crow's beak.
Out of the crow's beak, yeah. And I'm just going to go in and sculpt around in this one a little bit. So I'm going to delete that ring there and get a circle. And I'm going to make sure it's the same color as that because we've got a color picker. And make sure it's a negative, like a cutout, yeah. And then I'm going to grab it from the middle, which will help me line it up nicely. And this is going to be like where the whole dangerous arrow of doom is going to appear from. And I can even get a little stretch tool and I can just stretch that down inside there like that. So it goes right back inside for added realism. Okay. And now is that in line with the trap? Yeah, that's in line with the trap.
Closer enough.
Closer enough. Okay, so what we need now is an emitter. Let's get an emitter. And I'm just going to stick that over here. Then I'm going to get the arrow. I'm just going to turn the grid off for now as well. I'm going to get the arrow that I put in here earlier.
Emit the arrow.
Goth arrow.
Goth arrow.
There we go. And I'm just going to put it in the hole like this, ready to come out. And then with the emitter, you can say what you want to emit. So I'm going to say, please emit this arrow. There we go. Nice. And then you can move this arrow around where you want it to emit from. Oops, I've grabbed the entire thing. Let's undo that. Once again, grab the entire thing. It's because all these flames are now getting in my way. There we go. So let's pull that out. And there we go. That's the bit I was supposed to grab. There we go. And we'll put that in there. And you can see this is the direction it's going to emit in. So I want it to
up a tiny bit.
Up a tiny bit. Yeah, there we go. So kind of like that. And we want some speed. So I don't know, like 20 meters a second, I guess. I don't know. And we're going to say emit once, which is like emit when I touch it.
Yep.
And we're going to recycle the old emitted objects. And when it's fired enough out, it will just start cleaning up the old ones.
Yep.
And I think I could wire this straight into it, but I think in this particular case, what we want is to just put a little timer so it doesn't instantaneously fire out, because that would be really mean. We need to give the player a little chance to sort of escape from the trap. So let's put a timer out. And the timer, I'm going to say like after, that amount of time, some arbitrary amount of time, we can say start timer, and then we can say timer's finished, and into the power, and we can even reset the timer so it's ready to go again when the trap is reset. So let's see if that does the magic. I have a feeling I know what's going to happen, that the arrow's going to get stuck in that hole. But
probably, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I knew it. It's because it touched. So what I'm going to do very quickly is just tweak this, and I'm just going to tweak where it is, because it got stuck because it collided with the hole. So I put a tiny bit of logic on here earlier, which was when you collide with something, stop moving, so it gets stuck into the wall. So what I want to do is stick it out, just make sure it's not going to touch that. And to be on the safe side, I can even just say don't be collidable on this bit of wall over here, which will hopefully fix that problem. So let's give that one more go.
Donk.
Donk. Yes. Stuck over there. And it hit me. So
how much damage is that?
100. So it's
killed her
instant death. Instant death. And Kev was going to set up a death animation, but I think we're sort of running out of time, unfortunately.
A few minutes left.
And the cool thing is I can get all that bit of logic that I just made. Let's turn off the precise move here, and we can select it all. Timer, emitter, thingy, and we can say be a group. Only two things. That's slightly strange. There's only two things. Okay, there we go. And then we can copy all of that, and it copies the whole chunk, which is really great. So you can then put loads of.
Can I put a sound effect?
Yeah, of course you can. Go for it.
Trap. Have I got the right controller here?
Yes, yeah.
Cool. Do to see how quickly I can do this. We haven't got long. So it is a arrow. So I think I'm going to go into this one called Toy Box, which is actually called Miscellaneous.
Boing, boing, boing.
The boing completely contrasts.
Yeah. Goth. Doing, doing.
Get that. I'm going to put these on a timeline so I can make my own little sound effects from multiple sounds. Twang.
You're going to combine a couple of sounds together.
Yeah, because that's the best way to make your own sort of sound effects,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like collaging things together. Ooh. A few more of these.
It's just a bubble machine. You step on it and just bubbles come out of the wall. Very dangerous bubbles.
I think maybe a whoosh as well, so I'll look in a different folder for that. Motions and movements. Whooshes. Sure, there's something useful in here. Oh yeah, that'll do.
Oh, it's
Perfect.
Sure, that'll be fine.
Instantaneous.
Just turn it off for 3D. So let's hear this. High quality. I need to turn it into time and not beats, then I can be a little bit more precise. I think we need another little twang or something that's going to be like make it sound like a shot fired. And maybe in mechanical. Not thinking particularly too hard about what this is going to sound like. Just going to dump some sounds on and then
Nice. That's
sure,
pretty
that'll
cool.
do.
Yeah.
And this could be the sound for when it fires.
Yep.
One shot.
Yep.
And we can do this from your emitter, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
in
the
the
emitter.
on lots of the gadgets on the last page, just like you saw with Ed earlier with the audio, is the outputs. And this
Object
one
just
is
emitted?
object just emitted, which you can
So
then
if I
use.
play that timeline with that, then hopefully when it fires an arrow, it will play that sound. And we also need a sound quickly for the stone going down,
Yeah, nice. Yeah. of
just
course.
because why not?
Just because why not?
Oh, that's instruments. Make it play a.
Well, yeah, as it goes down. Ah.
It's a
we've
church.
got
It's
some-
probably more like, harmonising.
Ooh, that could be cool.
It's like nice mechanics going.
Nice.
These are all good as well. Clunks.
Oh,
Sure.
that one's nice.
We'll put
Literally
those
called
two
small
together.
stones.
Yep.
And it's this trigger
Yeah,
zone
that's
that's
the trigger
detecting
zone,
them,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
let's just wire them quickly together like this. That's just another way of doing it.
Yeah, nice and quick.
Quick and dirty logic. Hopefully we'll have some sound now. Oh, I don't think I played that.
Oh!
She's dead again.
Oh, she's dead again.
Yeah, yeah.
We haven't put a checkpoint in or anything.
Or death animation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's how you do it. Timeline should be on. And
Is it 3D at the sounds maybe?
those are all 2D, so that should just play. Maybe it's just not loud enough. I don't know if at home you might have been able to hear this.
Yeah.
We've got just a TV speaker here, so. Did I actually?
Do it again, I'll turn up again.
Okay, so object just emitted.
Yep.
Plays thing.
Yep.
That's correct, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
and that needs to be.
Yeah, no,
Switched on, it's on.
Yeah,
Oh.
it is.
Something's going a bit wrong, but that's
That's
the
perfect.
idea of how to hook up sound effects.
And that's cool.
That-
That is basically
That's
our
our Gothic
level.
Novel
Yeah.
jam completed.
Speedy.
Thank you guys. As we mentioned at the top, this is in support of our friends at the Guildford Library who have been doing this all month creating Gothic novel stuff. They've got a really cool hashtag. Search Goth Nov Jam and you
Goth
can
Nov
see what
Jam.
everyone else has made. That was awesome. Thank you very
Thank you,
much. Hope
thank
you
you.
all enjoyed
Cheers.
it. By the looks of it, everyone enjoyed that. In the spirit of more streams,
Yep.
we've actually got our next stream ready. It's going to be on
That's
August
exciting.
the 17th. And it's
Oh,
going to be
what
a
we doing?
Kareem's Dreams stream.
Kareem's
Oh,
Dreams.
So
there
you'll be
you
able to
go.
tune in, and Kareem will just be sat where John is.
That's exciting.
Making
Basically
things.
doing what I'm doing now, kind of. Thing.
Yeah,
So,
and everyone always loves those, so that's going to be incredible. So thank you, Ed, John,
you,
and
thank you,
Kev,
thank
and
you.
thank you for watching. And
Tom.
we're back on August 17th. Follow us on Twitter in case you missed that news.
building us up
Bye,
here.
everybody.
Bye.